his limits to succeed. Worries Savior make you try so hard. Be the best. Well, you are.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you another classic film review. Today's classic film review focuses on the 2000 film Men of Honor, a film that is directed by George Tillman Jr. and it stars Cuba Gooding Jr., Robert De Niro, Charlize Theron, Hal Holbrook, Michael Rappaport, Powers Booth and David Keith. Now this film is a biography drama that is based on the real life of Master Chief Carl Brashear, played by Cuba Gooding Jr., who was the first African-American US Navy diver. So we follow him when he first starts off in his career, when he joins the Navy, and he essentially is thrown straight in the kitchens, as that's essentially all you could do when you were African American in the Navy, work in the kitchens. You weren't allowed to do anything else in these days, and we're talking about the 50s here. But he served on a ship with Robert De Niro's character, Master Chief Billy Sunday, who inspires him basically to become a diver, a Navy diver. But the obstacles that he faces to try and achieve this are unimaginable. He is given a recommendation by Powers Booth, who plays Captain Pullman. He gets to the training centre to be a diver, and lo and behold, Robert De Niro is the chief training officer there, and he proceeds to make his life a living hell in order for him to pass the course. We then follow his life after he passes the course, and him having to deal with a disability because he essentially has to have a leg amputated due to an accident on a ship, and then the film follows his struggles following this amputation, getting back to being a Navy diver. Right. So, Men of Honor. I fairly recently picked this one up, Men of Honor. I saw this once years ago, and it was on TV. I think it was in the UK. I think it was Film 4. Could be wrong, but I do remember watching it with my wife a good few years ago now. I'm being quite impressed with it at the time. So I didn't hesitate when I saw it in, I think it was CEX where I got it and picked it up, and we pretty much rewatched it the same day I got it. Me and my wife were keen to rewatch this because we both remembered that we enjoyed it, and I have to say, after watching it, I was again deeply impressed with this film, not just as like a pleasing film to watch, but looking at it like from a critical standpoint as well. It was very, very well made, this film, with two actors really at the height of their powers. I mean, Cuba Gooding Jr. had fairly recently just won his Oscar for Jerry Maguire 2 or 3 years earlier. And obviously Robert De Niro, we know his talent in regards to acting. So you've got these two guys really going for it here in this film, and they are by far and away utterly engaging in this film. They've got great chemistry as well, De Niro and Cuba Gooding Jr. Now, De Niro, in actual fact, plays a far more complex character here. This Master Chief, Billy Sunday, who's got real issues with authority. He's constantly getting court-martialed for this, that and the other, which is how he ends up going to this place to train divers. He ends up going there because he gets disciplined, but also he's in like a diving accident, so he can't dive anymore. He'll die if he goes under pressure underwater. So he can't do that anymore. So he ends up training cadets, but he's a real bastard. I mean, it's almost like a cliche now, seeing these guys in Hollywood movies training people. You know, the sergeant major type who's, you know, treats everybody really badly and is a real bastard. It's almost a cliche. But De Niro kind of puts a bit of a different twist on it, and he is utterly unlikable for large chunks of this film. Utterly unlikable. You really despair as to how horrible he is to Cuba Gooding Jr. but you also see, and this is the talent of him as an actor, this respect developed for the Cuba Gooding for Carl Brashear's character. This respect slowly develop as the film goes on between the two, and then they share the screen at the end of the film in a sense of when he's got to prove himself back to the Navy, when he has his leg amputated, he's got to prove himself that he can still do the job. They want rid of him, basically. And Robert De Niro kind of helps him get ready to prove that he can still do it. And they become like, really, really shoulder to shoulder comrades by the end of the film. And I really, really loved that aspect of the film. How it can make you feel different ways about different characters. And as good as Cuba Gooding Jr. is in this film, and he really is very good in this film, I actually think this is his best performance in his career. Cuba Gooding Jr. is better than the Jerry Maguire performance. This is a very, very strong and powerful performance by him. And he owns the screen when he's on there, this strength and determination of this character that he's portraying and what he has to go through. I mean, it breaks your heart. It absolutely breaks your heart. And it goes to show as well, it's not that long ago, this, when he had to face all these racism issues in the military. It might feel like a long time ago, but it isn't really in the grand scheme of things, and it also shines a light on why and how society is still dealing with these issues, because it is so deep within the communities all over the world, and I'm talking about the UK as well, but obviously in America it's so embedded in communities and how people are raised that it's going to take a long time for these issues to be fully resolved, and just seeing what it has to go through in this film will definitely really break your heart and upset you and make you angry, because it certainly did me watching it. But to see him come through everything and come out the other end, and what he achieved in his career was remarkable, really. And these sort of films I really like, especially the military ones, but not always, where they portray like these stories that you don't hear, generally speaking. We never really hear these stories spoken about that often. They're like these heroes out there, and then they get a story shown on the big screen and you're just like, wow, what a guy, what an inspiration. And that's all you can really say about this guy. He was an absolute inspiration, and proof of what you can achieve if you set your mind to it. And that is what you really take away from this film. It's really well made. There's some great sequences in it. There's some scenes in it that will get you going as well, some exciting scenes in it. There's a courtroom scene in it by the end. It's literally got everything. But for me, the best and most impactful part of the film was when he was doing his training, being trained by the Robert De Niro character, Chief Billy Sunday. Interestingly, Charlize Theron's in the film. I had actually forgotten she was in it. One of her earlier performances, I suppose. She started coming into prominence in like the mid-90s. And she plays like Robert De Niro's wife in this film, which you wouldn't think would be much of a part. And while she's not in it that much, she's in it enough to get noticed, and you do starting to see here in this film the real talent that she had as an actress. But yeah, definitely worth getting this, guys. If you like a good war drama, this is really, really good stuff. It tells a fascinating story. And I really, really enjoy this film, so I strongly recommend you guys pick it up. I'm going to give it a very, very strong 8.5 out of 10. So let me know in the comments if you've seen the film, what you think of it, and of course I'll be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.